Continuing in the theme of the legal aspects of data science, our next speaker is an advisor for Maharashtra Cyber Policy and Investigation. She's an advocate for Supreme Court on cyber laws and an internationally acclaimed authority in the cyber crime, IPR, corporate and commercial laws. In her session today, she will encapsulate the essence of how data is the new industry and subsequently how laws have to be created in order to protect the interests of all stakeholders in the industry for innovation, growth and employment. Welcome, ma'am, and over to your session.
3 minutes left. Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. And since hot lunch has already been announced, let me see how much I can keep you engaged, where you would still prefer this to the hot lunch, right? So here, on the line? Light, okay. Oh, yeah, we started off with perfect. Oh, I tell you, I was just trying to get closer to you all. Okay, so when I'm talking about data as an industry, I'm not talking about what has now become cliches. We know about data as gold, data as oil, and therefore, is it just another thing to say data as industry? I'm here to talk about my concern of data as an industry. So when you look at, Rama has already spoken about the industry perspective in terms of GDPR or our Indian laws, etc. If you go back to the earliest data protection law till date, it's not just the protection of user data that the Act focuses on. It also gives a lot of emphasis on data as an industry. It talks about how data should be utilized for innovation and growth. So what I'm talking about is the second part of the emphasis or the need for data protection laws. Because we do hear a lot about the first part. We always, when we speak about data, today we are all a lot more aware in talking about the privacy and the security concerns. But yes, I would like to touch upon the security concerns also in my narrative today. The primary thought I want to throw out here, and I'm not going to think that I can sprint through my presentation and still make many points in 15 minutes. So I'm just going to make one point here, and that's the thought I want you all to take home with, as data scientists. What is it that is permissible under law in terms of personal data? To what extent, as data scientists, do you believe that you may formulate technology tools to utilize this data, not only for innovation and growth in general, but also innovation and growth for you? In doing this, what is it that we invariably keep sacrificing at the anvil of speed? So when you look at my first slide, I realize that I'm going to need, because otherwise I just usually do a click through at super fast pace. You would wonder, what has this slide got to do with what she's talking about? But this slide was supposed to epitomize the need for speed. I'll come to this slide later, but I just want to throw this thought at you. What is it that you're willing to sacrifice at the anvil of speed when you, as data scientists, may be developing technology to enable growth and innovation? The next thought, what is the role of government in treating data as an industry? And this is what I really want to focus on today. Just before I came on stage, see, everything has a cost, right? This is a story I was going to say anyway, almost towards the end of my presentation, but I'm going to start with this story. Have you all heard of the apps Vahan and Sarathi? You must have also read this story about the data collected through Vahan and Sarathi being sold. Okay, so this is the story I wanted to start with. Now, Vahan is the vehicle registration data, and Sarathi is the driver registration data, right? Driving license registration data, to be more precise. Now, the story was already out about how you could buy, any Indian industry could buy this data for a very minuscule sum of 3 crores. You may think, oh my God, that's such a huge sum. I still have to count how many zeros are there in a crore, right? But then remember that data is an industry which doesn't deal in crores, it deals in thousands of crores, thousands of millions, right? So when you talk about the importance of this data and what it's being subjected to in terms of a governance perspective, then you would understand where I'm leading to. Can you kind of like click through, because I'm going to have to, I'm so sorry, I thought I'll keep you all so engaged and fun, you know, in terms of all these. Okay, let's just pause here just to tell you all before I get back to the Vahan story. The whole story, all these pictures were supposed to tell you is about speed. The next slide, please. Yes, you know, all of you all know about this, right? Most of you hate it, many may love it, but the story that was always said with this ad was speed. And what I wanted to emphasize was that in the world of technology, what happens is that if you are not the first player, you always believe that you lose. So, and in the process, that which is always sacrificed, strangely, but not so strangely maybe, is security. It is privacy, and now with the Vahan story, I want to share that it is also governance. A few slides to go ahead, please. Yeah. So all this was just to show how things are changing. And yeah, you can move ahead to the slide where I'll say stop. Yeah. Move ahead, please. Yeah, you all know now why I really wish I had the clicker in my hand. But yeah, so as she's moving, let me just continue with the Vahan story. Now, if you are talking about all this data, so all of this was supposed to just show you the kind of, I want the duck. Okay, until then, can we just move? Okay, everybody knows what the duck says, so let's just, I'm not going to look backwards when the duck comes up. So when we are talking about developing technology and we are talking about vulnerabilities there, it's not just the developer who gives up on the vulnerability, it is also the user. Because we are also in a hurry. And my standard line always is that the biggest enemy of privacy is what? I think we also went through a few slides about surveillance and all that, right? So do you all believe that surveillance is the biggest enemy of privacy? If you nod, the camera can capture it. So you need to answer to me. I know you're all very hungry. So yes, right? But I always say that it is not really surveillance. It is each one of us, you know, who are the culprits. Convenience is the real enemy of privacy. You want your convenience, you want your app. Yeah, there comes the duck with its story, right? So you want that convenience, and therefore you're willing to give up on privacy or security just for the sake of that app, right? So what does Vahan and Sarathi do, which is more than the app? In an app, the choice is yours. You decide whether you want to browse or you want to download the app. What you share on that app, knowingly or unknowingly, is your choice, right? And therefore, if there is a vulnerability, there is some contribution from your side. The problem that happens when governments stop governing and start running an industry is this. Now, you cannot have cars on the road without registration plates. You cannot drive those cars without a driving license. On an aside, when the first Nissan driverless car was launched, the Japanese premier sits inside for the test ride, and his first question is, who takes the driving test? The car, the manufacturer, the software developer, or who, right? So that's just on an aside. So unless it's a driverless car, you need your driving license. Now, these aspects of giving you this driving license or a number plate to a car is the construct of governance, which a government is supposed to do. You cannot say, I will not share this data, right? There is no choice when you are talking about a Vahan or Sarathi. And yet, here is your data being sold as if it is goods. So my whole focus of the topic today was on, can data be treated as goods? I set forth the first part of the argument where industry does indeed treat it as goods, which is all those things we skipped, and a few more we are going to skip going forward. And to then say that the government's role is that of a governance, profile. It is not of industry. It is meant to regulate industry. It is meant to protect us. It cannot turn the tables around to say that I will now start selling your data. So when we talk about government, governance, and data, may I request for a few more? You can just keep moving to the slide which will say government and, please keep moving forward. So these were all also to talk about the vulnerabilities of data, but let's just move forward. Yeah. So these were all, may I just pause at this slide, please? So these were all just some of the thoughts that came to my mind where I believe that these are subjects where the government can actually use data, what Rama was talking about as non-personal data or personal data, in an anonymized fashion or a de-identified fashion for public good. So the entire topic for today's program is AI for social good. And that is why I wanted to focus on this topic of how governments can use collected data from all those sources which all those pictures showed you for public good. Could we have avoided a coronavirus breakout if we had had AI working on it earlier? Right? Just to give an immediate example. Could we have prevented all the riots and the loss of life from the CAA if AI had been deployed to understand how the reactions would be and what would be the forthcoming outcomes? If not that, could it have been deployed to figure out the safe spaces or the unsafe spaces and to find out how best to protect the unsafe spaces? And again here, I bring in the Vahan and the Sarathi story. Just 4 minutes before I was stepping up here, a friend shared his article where he has talked about how the vulnerability of sharing Vahan's data was, which is that a specific community can be targeted the minute you sell data which you have acquired as a governing agency and where it is being shared without any fetters, without regulations protecting against its misuse. And this article focused on how just by the correlation of the vehicle registration numbers with the driver details and the details that are being collected for that registration, communities can be targeted. Of course, it takes it a step further to say communities were targeted. I'm going to stop with communities can be targeted because I believe that you need a quantitative analysis before you can jump to conclusions on that. But with this thought, I would like to close today in the spirit of time, and thank you so much for accommodating me earlier and all that. But let me just leave you all with this thought as data scientists. I have been espousing the cause of responsible technology. I've been doing it through one of my recent initiatives called Cyber Saathi, which is, as the name says, Cyber Friend. The whole idea of this construct is, whoever or whatever you may be, whatever role you're playing, do not throw caution to the winds in the, in the urge to rush forward, to be the first, to be safer, to be better, to be sustainable, and to be able to show that you have not just what Rama was saying, no, not just tick marking, but actually complying with what is needed to ensure that protection, ensure that regulations which are meant for protection are complied with. Beyond that, if it is uncharted territory, like what is happening with governments entering into industries instead of being just governing agencies, if you are part of such uncharted territories, remember, first put yourself as the user and see whether you're still protecting your own interests. If you believe you are, then go ahead. If not, go back to the drawing board. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for first of all making this such a tedious topic so easy to understand with very, very logical examples. And with this, I know it is late, but we will have a lunch break now. A couple of instructions so that all of us can reach the location of the lunch properly. So the lunch has been arranged in the North Campus of COEP because of some logistic problems over here. So there is going to be a slight walk from this campus. We have all of our volunteers and our speaker management team to escort you and take you to the location. So we were supposed to have a 1 hour long lunch break, but since we are running late, we are going to have like a 25-30 minutes lunch break. It's a business lunch, so please go have your food, and then based on your choice of sessions, you can assemble back here either for the continuing talks. Immediately after this, we will have talks from some of the earlier speakers that we had to readjust. So we will have talks by Sheetal Nilavant, who is representing Tong Tong over here, and we will also have talks by our other speakers, like we have Leena Bokil ma'am from NASA. So please do join us back after lunch, and yeah, with lots more energy. So thank you so much. So the lunch has been arranged in the mini auditorium. It's on the North Campus. You will have to take a subway down. We will have all of our volunteers in the white t-shirts. There are instructions already put up. Please refer to the signages on the route so that you reach properly.